Hey y'all, Scott here. You know, people don't get that anymore. Combining the words Scott, all, hey, and here just doesn't connect with modern word years. That's why I'm going to change up the first 4 words I say to everybody to be understandable to more people. Here I have a lot of options to shift through. Hi gang, it's Scott. Welcome to Scottburg. Everybody? No, just Scott. Guys, look, a me! I play Planes Match. People of you. Hey, anybody up for tennis? I like that one.
Ideas
Remember this? No, you don't. He had black hair instead. Take it. You got a beloved franchise on your hands. Scrap it. Start over again. That's the key to success, at least with most media now. Reboots are a hot ticket item these days. They're constantly getting pumped out within the television and film industries, but video game reboots are what we're talking today. I think reboots are totally understandable from a business perspective. After a series has been around for a while and there's a big fat number at the end of the title, apparently, massive turn off. Mario Party 10, well, I have to play 1 through 9 before that. I mean, I'm familiar with this mindset. It's a game I'm interested in, but it's a sequel. Most of the time, I'll want to make sure I either play the previous games or at the very least have a good understanding of them. That's why we see so many new games from old franchises with no number, no new subtitle, just the series name. Easily the biggest trope of the video game reboot, getting rid of all that garbage. Modern Warfare 4, nobody knows what the hell that is. Here's how it should be. I cannot wait to see the next couple Modern Warfares. Whether it's to give a series a fresh start or because the public is taking a pre-existing franchise and making a new entry that is newcomer friendly, ignores previous continuity, starts anew and has a boring stupid title to appeal to both potential new fans and longtime fans alike, it's like a game developer's favorite pastime. Reboots just make sense. They can appeal to newcomer and veteran fans. However, they're susceptible to numerous problems, not retaining what makes the franchise special in the first place, changing too much, ruining gameplay or characters. You have to find the right balance between keeping what made the series beloved to begin with and appealing to more people. Now, reboots have been around for a while, especially with film, so it really isn't a new concept. However, I'd argue reboots in video games started to become more common in the Xbox, PS2, and GameCube era, but really started to become a thing the generation after that with the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Wii. A lot of people were either just getting into gaming or getting back into gaming around that, so to rely heavily on previous titles wasn't gonna cut it. The Sonic continuity was too much to handle. Now this is a good starting point. Games would make a clean break with the title and just label something as the title of the series, so then more people would feel like they could pick it up. They didn't need prior knowledge, they could just start the series here, which is everything a reboot strives to be. Sometimes we got reinventions of a game in a more modern style, a return to form, or the best thing a reboot can ever strive to be, gritty. As gamers got older, so did a lot of their tastes, so it was a hip thing to take an E-rated franchise and M it all up. I always looked at Bomberman and said, well, if that's not right, where's the angst? I just got back from Spencer's Gifts. I'm ready for this. Bomberman Act Zero is possibly the most definitive way to not reboot a series. I guess Hudson Soft wanted to take Bomberman and turn it into something that could rival Gears of War with its persistent use of browning and gray. This game knows how to use no colors, and that means I can the most iconic characters in all of gaming and turn it into something your mom would approve of. Bionic Commando, so this technically is a sequel to the original Bionic Commando on NES. You might have played this and asked, what happens next? Well, obviously this. But its name is just Bionic Commando. It came out 20 years after the original. The tone is way more angsty. I think it's fair to call this a reboot. No, I think it's just okay. The only thing I ever remember about this game is that it gave Nathan Spencer a wife arm. Oh, twist. Your dead wife has been a part of your robotic arm throughout the entire adventure. That's something worthy of being on the back of the box. This was when Capcom was desperately trying to inject as much North America into their games as possible to appeal to audiences outside of Japan, which meant reboots. And with that, here comes DMC Devil May Cry, one of the most controversial reboots in all of video games. Not because it was necessarily bad or anything. It's alright, but it treated Devil May Cry's legacy just so poorly. Capcom enlisted Ninja Theory to develop the game rather than developing it themselves, and pushed them to make the game the way it is to help DMC reach bigger audiences. That meant turning the main character Dante into generic looking video game protagonists out there. A lot of these reboots like to take all the character out of character design and place them in these college dropouts. I guess with a more generic looking character, I can relate to him now. That was why I could never get into Devil May Cry. I just couldn't relate to Dante. He had white hair. DMC was okay, it just felt like it was rebooting the series for reasons that made no sense, taking things that actually made the series unique and changing them because they thought those were the problems with the series. Turned out they weren't. And then Capcom released Devil May Cry 5, which ignored everything DMC did, and it was just a direct follow-up to Devil May Cry 4. Now, instead of being considered a reboot, DMC is more so considered an alternate timeline version of Devil May Cry now, mainly because it's hard to be a reboot to a series when the series just reboots back. Capcom was all about these reboots for a while. there was a Mega Man X reboot in the works that ended up being cancelled. Maverick Hunter, think of something along the lines of Metroid Prime, how that took a 2D game and went first person with it. Maverick Hunter was pretty much going to be a first-person Mega Man X game, but much darker and grim. So imagine if the Bomberman X-Zero guys made a Mega Man X game. Honestly, I think this could have been okay, but I kinda doubt it. It was probably gonna be bad. I'm also thinking of this in terms of how well Metroid Prime turned out. Now, cast the reboot done right. After a long hiatus, they took the Metroid series and threw it in a new dimension and perspective, while retaining what made Metroid Metroid. The development team of Maverick Hunter was made up of some people who worked on Prime, so I think this project had a bit more potential than some may say, but it was probably a good thing it was cancelled. This was trying to take X and turning him into something like fucking Master Chief. I get why they redesigned characters like this, to get rid of that cartoony, kinda cutesy vibe and truly make a Mega Man game that you'd be proud to say you played last night at school. But a lot of the people who are only interested in the dark, gritty, mature games aren't really open to trying new things, and thus they aren't guaranteed to give a piss about a gritty Mega Man X reboot. And just saying that out loud, what guy who only plays dark and gritty mature games would actively care about a Mega Man X reboot? On top of that, something like this is less likely to appeal to actual Mega Man X fans because it's so radically different from the original games. I think it's fair to say, while I think this game may have had some potential, it would have flopped hard commercially, I guarantee. How about a gritty reboot of the World War II shooter? If you want grit, you can always take a look at EA's Medal of Honor reboot in 2010. The original Medal of Honor games were pioneers in Medal of Honor 2010 has absolutely none of its own spunk. It really gives you no reason to play it in comparison to something like Call of Duty. I did get a sequel, Medal of Honor Warfighter. That subtitle can be used with almost any FPS. Of course, there are reboots that have no business existing. Needed a completely new origin story? Spyro the Dragon, the kids wouldn't understand any of this. He needs a head. However, reboots can be good, I swear. God of War PS4 is one of the most radical reboots out there. It took a hack-and-slash franchise with a fixed camera and made a game that defied all the odds and was not... This is a weird reboot the more I think about it. So, Kratos is still the main character, but God of War PS4 switches from the Greek mythology of the original series to Norse mythology. But apparently, this is still the same Kratos, who decided to change mythologies on us. The reboot, however, is much more of a cinematic story-focused adventure game compared to the original title. It's like... Well, God of War PS4 still remains story. I can appreciate that, and I think the characters are popular. It's just this feels so similar to a lot of the other games Sony Studios are making that I can't help but think the original style was more unique in comparison. This felt much more like a game called God of War.
This is the Home Box Office Television Network.
Wolfenstein has been through so many reboots now, I don't know which is one of the most influential series ever when it comes to first-person shooters. Well, the first major reboot was Wolfenstein in 2001, followed by Wolfenstein for 2009, and then rounding things out with Wolfenstein The New Order in 2015. Return to Castle Wolfenstein was pretty great at the time. Wolfenstein The New Order and the games that followed it are definitive modern Wolfenstein games in my opinion. I think these are fantastic modern representations of the series. Something funky happened in 2010. Remember my opinion of Medal of Honor 2010? It kind of stays true with Wolfenstein 2009. It's a second nothing game that's kind of unremarkable about it. Nazis did do some crazy stuff with gravity though.
Canceled gravity when it detonated.
Oh, Hitler. Guys, I finally started up Kid Icarus Uprising, and that means, yep, I finally lost use of my right hand. Kid Icarus wasn't in this title, it was a sequel on the Game Boy, but that was it. With 53 and Superstar for this brawl, the people started questioning why the series never made a touch on the Game Boy. Uprising a reboot. Basically, it's franchise rather than the third game in the series. Sure, there are characters and enemies and some plot lines from the first two games, but by and large, this was a completely new take on Kid Icarus, and it was one of the most thrilling arthritic experiences of my life. It's a good game I hate. It's held back by its annoying control scheme, but other than that, it's a great time. But that reminds me of a type of reboot that has a special place in my heart. The full-blown retro revivals, bringing back a retro game series in all of its old school glory. This was a huge trend that started in the 360 days. With the aid of digital distribution with Xbox Live Arcade, PlayStation Network, and WiiWare, it became totally viable to produce new games and old school franchises. You could whip them together on the cheap, charge $10 for them, and throw them online. These were reboots in the sense that they went back to what people loved about these games originally and got rid of the extra junk added to later games. I'm just really fond of these types of games because they bring me back to the glory of Xbox Live Arcade. I miss this so much. Back when companies could just squeak out a remake of the original Bionic Commando, no wipe arm included, Mega Man 9 and 10, Double Dragon Neon, Hydro Thunder Hurricane, Rocket Knight for like 10 to 15 bucks. There were so many revivals of classic games, and it just brings me back to a much simpler time, when stuff like this was just far more common to get thrown online for a couple of bucks. Now, I mean, something like Bomberman R, that released in 2008, it would be like 15 bucks max on Xbox Live Arcade. And now, you see, that's a little thing that people who are talking about reboots right now call bullshit. My favorites were always the Pac-Man Championship Edition games. These were definitely the reboot back to basics Pac-Man games after they experimented with 3D platformers for a while. God, dude, I wish these games kind of grew forward intake. I want to stuff my face with these things. They bring back the standard maze format from Pac-Man, but they bring all this modern spectacle to it all. Alongside gameplay mechanics that possibly still it's been the norm since, I'd say, the mid-90s.
You're watching Global,
gaming icons
part of Shaw.
Brand them for a new age. Space Raiders, a reboot of Space Invaders. Yeah, this is one of the most forgotten games in the GameCube and PS2 libraries. Finally, a Space Invaders the kids can get behind. They didn't think a Space Invaders game could have partial nudity. Thankfully, since then, I found much more appropriate ways to leverage the Space Invaders brand. But Space Raiders will always live on in my heart until I forget about it for a few years, i.e., Ninja Gaiden is a solid example of late franchise. You go from tough as nails NES platformers to tough as nails hack and slashes. Yeah, it did get a genre change, but the spirit of Ninja Gaiden was still there. And one of my biggest pet peeves with reboots are the titles. I mean, if naming the 9th game in the Mortal Kombat series Mortal Kombat really got more people to buy it, okay. It's just when a new game is revealed and the title is revealed to be just the name of the series, I roll my eyes a bit. Now we have to start referring to these games by unofficial titles or following the title with a year or the system it's on. Mortal Kombat 9, Doom 2016, God of War PS4, Tomb Raider 2013, Punch-Out Wii. Those aren't the official titles, but that's just what we have to call them, and that's sort of annoying, especially when two games are completely different, yet have the same title. Saying, oh, I love Prey, that could mean anything. The title DMC Devil May Cry never made much sense to me marketing-wise. Like, DMC is kind of more of an abbreviation fans use to talk about the Devil May Cry games, so just calling the game DMC doesn't make much sense if they were looking to have this appeal to more people. I feel like it would have done better if they just straight up called it Devil May Cry. I adore Tomb Raider 2013, but the title being full-out Tomb Raider doesn't feel the most fitting to me. You do great tunes in the game, but it's not the focus. I think it would have made more sense to just call it War of Cross or something. Focusing on the origin story, and one of the last things I think of with this game is honestly the tomb raiding. Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. One thing I will never understand about this game is its name. They wanted this to be a fresh start for Sonic, so this is what Sonic was always meant to be. I don't get that because Sonic 06's gameplay is pretty similar to the Sonic Adventure titles. Why were they acting like this was Sonic's rebirth and deserved to be called simply Sonic the Hedgehog, when it was pretty much just a third Sonic Adventure? Plus, they re-released the first game on Game Boy Advance the same day, and that was just called Sonic the Hedgehog, and that was bad too! So you had a lot of nerve to release two completely different bad games with the same name on the same day. The Punch-Out games. Alright, how many times can you reuse the same title? Can you even call the Wii one Punch-Out in the face? However, sometimes I do think it's fair to use the generic series as a title, but when a series is gone for a long time, the lack of a subtitle or number kind of makes sense. I mean, why would you call Killer Instinct 2013 Killer Instinct 3? Most of the general population doesn't even know games called Killer Instinct 1 or 2 ever existed. Reboots can be seen as cash grabs or annoying to longtime fans. And they most certainly can be that, but I think we still gotta look at some of these from more creative perspectives. It can be incredibly frustrating and complicated to be tied to continuity from years worth of content, especially if current developers didn't work on previous titles in a franchise. A series can become worn out and beaten to death, but they still may have potential. The characters, the gameplay, the setting are all beloved, and you want to create more things around them. You don't want to be tied down to the limitations of what came before. Sometimes it's okay to let go of the past and to tweak characters or settings or even completely change them while still retaining the heart of the original source material. That's how some of the greatest stories and characters of all time evolve. A story told hundreds of years ago changes over time depending on who's telling it. While reboots are kind of given a bad rep most of the time, I think a lot of it has to do with the terms reboot and revival being used to death these days. They're annoying to hear. I'd recommend using the terms reimagining or a new take when describing these types of installments. I think those terms have a lot less of a corporate, we're bringing back old shit feel up because we don't have any original like this ourselves feel. Reboots can be grown-worthy sometimes, but I think they can be totally understandable and necessary. You can't make 20 installments of a game series called Need for Speed without like 5 reboots. You just can't.